wrongfully convicted man gets almost $1 million from a police department, and they issue him an apology for a crime they committed against him when he was a juvenile. He's now a 21-year-old adult. Let's put up the picture of this young man from Kansas City, Missouri. Tyree Bell was just 15 years of age when he was arrested, held in jail for 3 weeks for a crime he never committed. Now that he's 21 years old, he has been granted a $900,000 settlement and an apology from the Kansas City Police Department. Let's put up another profile. There it is. So let's go back to what happened to this young man as a child. In June of 2016, Bell was walking home from a relative's house when he was stopped by police, and the police officers were Peter Newkirk and Jonathan Munyon. The officers were apparently responding to a call of 3 black men playing guns in the area. One of the 2 officers chased one who tried to flee but lost him. A few minutes later, another police officer found Mr. Tyree Bell walking a mile away. Okay, so they're chasing black people and they spot a random black person a mile away from the incident alleged. There's more. The police then stopped and arrested Bell, even though he was obviously taller than the suspect, has hair and clothing entirely different from those of the suspect. Bell was placed on what's called a 24-hour investigative hold and was detained for 3 weeks without a charge. He was only released when a detective concluded his clothing and appearance did not match those of the suspect after watching patrol car videos. Now here's something interesting to note. The cops who arrested him, they knew his clothing did not match. They knew his height did not match. They decided to put him in jail anyway. They then violated his 5th Amendment right by incarcerating him, depriving him of liberty without any form of due process. The law only allows a 24-hour investigative hold. They decided to stick him in jail and forget about him. It was part of a national disgrace that has been allowed to persist among white police for 40 years. Cross-race identifications of black males by white officers are often wrong. That's Bell's attorney, Arthur Benson. And they are often wrong because too many police departments do not train their officers that all blacks do not look alike, and how to make an eyewitness identification that is not tainted by racial stereotypes. Tyree Bell was a victim of the Kansas City Police Department's failure to address this national outrage. Now here's the part where I bring to your attention the spectrum of bias. Now the attorney believes this was what we call implicit bias, meaning the cops actually believed that Mr. Bell was a suspect. I do not believe that. I disagree with the attorney. I think this was intentional bias. I think this was hyper aggressive bias. I think this was a flagrant disregard and disrespect for the rule of law, for the Constitution, because of the race of the individual. I believe they thought they could pin this on the young man anyway. Because if this was an honest mistake, he gets released after the 24-hour investigative hold. That's what you do when you make a mistake, you remedy the mistake. Somebody else doesn't have to come with authority over you to tell you you have concluded wrongly. Bell originally filed a lawsuit against both of the cops in 2017, but the case was dismissed. Why was the case dismissed? As they were found entitled to qualified immunity. There's that qualified immunity part again, the policy that protects cops when they violate a citizen. However, October 2020, a federal appeals court reinstated the lawsuit after finding that police officers did not have probable cause to arrest Bell. The jury did not reach a unanimous verdict during the trial, which was declared a mistrial by the judge. It was set to go to trial again, but was canceled due to the pending settlement. The police department spokesperson said in a statement that the board of police commissioners have agreed to the settlement amount of $900,000 made payable to Mr. Bell. They also offered Mr. Bell an apology. He was a child when this happened to him. He was 15 years of age, and he was introduced to the criminal justice system by people in uniforms who became criminals to him. That was his introduction. Now, what if this 15-year-old had dreams of one day becoming a police officer? What if he believed that policing was a noble profession? What if he believed in the rule of law, that justice is actually available to individuals like him? This cop or those cops destroyed that. You see, people look at situations like this and think, well, this is just a silo, a one-off, an anomaly. No, it's normative. I'm surprised the young man didn't just start running when the cops got behind him. Probably should have. His life was turned upside down. It was heavily covered by the media, and he has finally been completely 100% exonerated, made whole, got some money coming to him. But even in that, and this is where I'm gonna kick it to our attorney at TYT. The attorney, Adrienne, received more money in the settlement than the victim of the crime. Help me understand this.
Yeah, that was actually an observation I was gonna make. People will think, oh, it's $900,000, it's a nice chunk of change. No, that's not how it works. Generally, you work on commission, or excuse me, you have some kind of fee structure, contingency fee structure set up with the attorney, because us normal people cannot necessarily pay those fees of several $100s an hour, particularly when this case went through trial and appeal and then continued going. And so that meant that the attorney got a percentage, and this percentage was probably no less than at least 33%, so a third of the amount. And the thing is that's what a lot of people don't fully appreciate when you see these settlements coming out, is that the attorneys take a huge chunk of that money, and then you have taxes coming against it as well. The fact is that here you had these officers essentially operating as a modern day slave patrol. They were out, they decided to find a black person, and whether or not he fit the bill in terms of the crime, they decided to essentially take his freedom away as an exercise of power. And there's no amount of money that can essentially fix or remedy that kind of situation, especially not a small amount like this, given what his attorney has taken.
Yeah, and I think this only starts changing when local DAs, police departments start actually holding officers accountable. When we talk about defund the police, listen, the police department now has to pay almost $1 million. Regardless of how it's split, the police have to pay this, they have to settle this. That's because of corrupt cops that are negligent, or cops that decide to violate the rights of citizens. The truth is, the only people truly defunding the police are the police.